Okay, hey collective. I hope you've been looking good, feeling good, smelling good, eating good, drinking good, thinking good thoughts, having a good time, sharing good energy with good people, in good places, doing good things. I am doing a reading on Mr. Michael B. Jordan. This was requested. There were quite a few really great questions that someone posed in the comments of some older videos. I think I took a look into his love life a while back, but nonetheless, I, I, his energy is very heavy right now. Heavy as in like there may be a lot of people around, may be a lot going on. He, maybe, amidst the celebrations and things like that, there may be some other things that aren't being seen that he's dealing with, off camera, behind the scenes. But nonetheless, it looks like it was Unvex Me asked if I could do a reading just for him after he's won this Oscar. The world would love to hear about his destiny. Love life, kids, integrity, and career. Like, what is the sole purpose of his life calling to him beyond the roles that we see? So what is his life purpose? Wow. This is quite interesting. So by now everybody should know that this is a spiritual world. Especially those who are in the entertainment industry, you would want to at least think that they know who they're involved with, who they're connected to, what the risks are, and so on and so forth with respect to their spiritual world. There may be some big changes that he would be able to be a part of. Okay, I'm being corrected. He hasn't chosen to move forward in that right at this point is what I understand, but he may be thinking about some big changes, opportunities to really communicate or be assertive with respect to people who, it says soul searching, spiritual enlightenment. It says soul searching again, self-reflection, introspection, contemplation, inner guidance, solitude. He has mentioned on several occasions how he's, just trying to be a better person than he's was, the day before, I guess, right? So that may be something like he may be trying to gain more understanding about intuition, because one would think that once you gained a certain level of intuition that got you to a high priestess level, that you would know the right person for you, that you would be guided to that. So the fact that he's not quite there yet means that may be something he's still figuring out. Let's see. What is his soul purpose? So that may be a part of his soul purpose. A part of his soul purpose may be to help enlighten others. Maybe that's why there was so much speaking about the spiritual aspect of the movie Sinners. He said he and what's her name, Wamuku, how they shared a moment where she was giving him a message. So that means to me that he may not be actually as tapped in tune with his guides. He may not truly understand, the nature of those respective connections, relationships, purposes. He may see it as just the surface level. He is very much a King of Pentacles energy, which means he's, focused on the material world. So the spiritual, that may not, necessarily, he's a King of Swords if we're looking at, astrological signs, but I believe that his focus and the energy that he works out of is very earth energy. But nonetheless, this is what is his soul purpose. So that's what we got for that. Okay. He's mentioned that he struggled and needed to go to therapy after doing that role of Killmonger, I think it's called, is the name of that character. I could barely watch that movie to see someone that appears as genuine and, as a like a loving good guy to play, you know, this mean guy role. It was almost kind of like uncomfortable, like it was when I watched Denzel Washington play the guy in Training Day. So, um, but yeah, he mentioned how he had to, just he went to therapy afterwards to kind of, disconnect from that character. So I often wonder if the reason why his energy feels so heavy to me as an intuitive at this point in time is because he's played two roles recently, and they are two opposite characters. And so he may be on the fence. He may be struggling. That may be mentally what's holding him back is that one minute he's Stack and the next minute he's Smoke, but he's got to, possibly get back. And maybe he likes that. I don't know. Sometimes it does feel good to, have an alter ego or a different persona or, so on and so forth. Um, There's also a mention in an interview where, who is the producer guy? Ryan, is that his name? Ryan Coogler, where Ryan was saying how he's more like one. I think the suave, the one who wasn't very committal, so to speak. He said I don't know the different. I don't know the names. I don't know who's smoking, who's Stack, just to be perfectly honest. But he said he was more, Ryan hinted or communicated on camera in an interview about how Michael is more like one than the other. And I think the one that Michael was like, well, it's somewhere in there, that heart of him. But that part may only be seen with people, that are in his immediate family, So it's not easy, when we think about it, to be in a committed relationship with someone and see a future with them is maybe a little bit more difficult for individuals because you've got to give that type of love to someone that is not related to you, that doesn't know you, that's a complete stranger, so to speak, And, he said in interviews as well that he's, made, he seems to choose wrong. And I don't know if that has a lot to do with because he hasn't, necessarily totally tapped in or because he likes, being more of the suave player, Leonardo DiCaprio type of, energy. so, so that's what it says. What is his sole purpose? What is the sole purpose this life is calling him to beyond the roles we see? To be more tapped in spiritually, with respect to like soul searching and spiritual enlightenment. That's, you know, maybe even sharing how he self reflects what he's learned, inner guidance. When he's at places that he feels as though, what that looks like, what that feels like to him when he's at places like I know around the time of Creed, he was going to Japan or something like that, and he, had some really zen moments, it seems. So he's maybe that's more what his calling is, his purpose is to help other people be enlightened in that way. It says, love life. Every female celebrity that he hugs, laughs with, or is told to pose beside, fans pair him with, but he voiced he doesn't want another celebrity. Who is really the person that Michael is to be with? And then this commenter goes on to say, I feel like she's a Virgo, not famous or nor cares to be. She comes with a few kids. They have an eternal covenant marriage type of history. And she's going to be a plot twist to Hollywood, being a mentally and spiritually strong chocolate black woman. They can't control her presence, and she will shake Hollywood. I agree with that. That's what my previous reading was on. I was trying to, because everyone pairs him with Tessa Thompson. And so I did a reading on them, and they were very grounded in their friendship. I think Michael is just one of those personalities. It doesn't matter what room you put him in. People are going to be attracted to him. People of the same sex, people of opposite sex, right? Because of his centered good nature, right? Oftentimes when you seek this, inner enlightenment, inner knowing, it attracts more people to you. And he's very I think he's learned this over the course of time, being in the public eye, maybe even seeing how other people get caught up over the course of time. He's learned how to kind of keep things to himself, or close to his chest. But in that previous reading that I made private, um, which I can re-expose it if anyone's interested. But in that reading, at that point in time, it seems as though Michael had declined his spiritual connection. Um, yeah, his eternal covenant marriage type of relationship. So I'll ask that. Who really is the person that Michael is meant to be with? Oh, wow. Someone that's in a high priestess energy that, knows how to outpour love, not a false reality. It's that saying where who would be really interested in him and paying attention to him if he hadn't reached the success and the heights that he did. And that's often the times what we see is difficult for some people when they reach a certain level of success and in the public eye like he is right now. Everybody's oogling and googling over him. What's actually real? Do you love me because of what I can offer you, or do you love me because of who I am? Because I like anime, because I'm gentle, because I'm freaky, because I'm this, because I'm that. Like do you like the way I dress? Yeah. See, look, that often keeps him thinking and second guessing connections, which may have been why he declined his eternal soul partner. At least that's what I got in my previous reading. Yeah, there's an outpouring of interest in him and his wand. I know that there's this print thing like where you can look at the print pattern or something, and yeah, so I don't know, I don't know. But it may be those things, maybe even his thinking long, there's a saying, think long, think wrong. That may have been a part of why he declined his spiritual connection, his spiritual divine partner. We're going to call them that, divine partner. Yeah. Who is the person that Michael is meant to be with? Wow. It's the person that you just described. Very much so. Someone who's very energetic, someone who is very, I'm getting like strong-willed even, who's not, afraid to communicate what they need to, but does it in a passionate way, a very confident way, someone who has a positive outlook on life, who's not afraid to be alone, which, works well for him in his profession, right? But who was also, fun, and who, knows how to stand up for themselves is something that was something that came up in one of my other readings. It was talking about how like men have to be careful about who they choose. And because a lot of men say, oh, I want a submissive woman, submissive woman, submissive woman. And then, your mother goes into, extended care or something like that as, for her health reasons, or has a home health nurse. And, the submissive woman doesn't play a part in that. When actually you need someone that's going to be asking like, okay, so what's this that you're giving her? Okay, why is this? And who will go and research, that's what I get by chaotic. Like they're going to demand whomever this is, what is it? What's the question? Who is really the person Michael is meant to be with? The person that he's meant to be with is someone that's going to be assertive in that way, who is going to demand. That's what I'm getting from the chaotic part. They're going to demand everybody be accountable for everything that they do. And that may be something, that energetically his friends work against. That's a heavy energy. I've been reading on his energy for a long time. He has, I don't know. I haven't seen them connecting lately, but he does have a few friends out there that, yeah, he has a few friends out there that want to continue to live vicariously through him. They want to, be seen with him and pick up the chicks with him and, this, that, and the other. But, and then there's other people, who just want to, you know, believe for him that he needs to choose this type or that type of woman, and that may be a difficulty for him. He's been in the business for a long time of making sure that people were pleased with how he was living his life and what he was doing. I'll just say, in front of everyone, because there are things that I've run across that I'm like, oh, Michael. um, which he's since had removed from the internet, and that that's kudos. But he will have a lot of success and victory and have a lot of wins. Not that he hasn't, but he will have an advantage over, let's say, the powers that be, because he will be grounded by someone who's got this similar mindset and attitude of focusing on legacy and holding people accountable to making sure that, like, oh, you can't be around if you don't have integrity. I just watched something just a few minutes ago, and it was like he will that's the type of person that he should be with, so that he can continue to rest easy when he's not available for the people that really need him. Like I said, someone that's going to rear his children correctly, people who are going to get in there and, handle business and be able to report back, in his absence. Not that he determines that he wants to be absent from that. I'm just saying, certain responsibilities and roles in the entertainment industry require, longer periods of absence. And, it can take a mental toll on someone who doesn't have a backbone. So this woman will have a backbone. Yeah, they'll gain their own, you know, recognition and praise and acclaim, um, their own fans and things like that. I don't see, again, I'm just being honest, and just like this person who wrote this comment requesting this reading, I don't see. I don't see this person wanting to be in front of the camera. I feel that this person just wants to be a positive reinforcement to their spouse. But it's because of the way this person handles themselves that the spotlight will be there. It's not one of those like, no shade, but what's his name? The basketball player. Oh gosh, I can't remember his name. Or Stephen Curry and his wife, Ayanna Curry. I don't see his wife being the type, Michael B. Jordan's, wife being the type of person that would want to, like, oh, okay, I want to open a line in Target, or, oh, okay, I want to do this and this and that and this and that. If it's something that he prefers for her to embark on, I feel like she'll do it just to kind of like go along with, building the legacy. But I don't feel like she's going to require to be in front of something like that. Now, would she want to be on board with, getting better products out to people in the public? Yes. But needing to be the face of it? No. That's not the character. It's like a quiet success, a quiet, quiet luxury type of, that maybe that's what this person finds. They find peace being luxury. They find quiet moments, solitude, being a part of luxury. Because most people who are wealthy don't have that type of privacy. But that's something that she would want to maintain. But I feel that connected to him, people are going to gravitate to her energy too. But it's not like that's not what her effort seems to be. But people, who's not going to be curious about the woman that snags Michael B. Jordan's heart. So yeah, this would be wish fulfillment for him. But again, I don't know that he actually wants to embark on that. That's not what I got from the last reading. But again, energy changes over the course of time. Okay. So yes, there is an eternal covenant, a past life connection. Let me pull a few different cards from this other deck. There is a past life connection that he has. And I just saw the separation card that he separated himself from. Okay. Let's keep it moving. Yeah, but he may be moving towards making healthier choices. Again, it's not like he let me make sure these cards are in the upright, because one was in the reverse that says not today. So, and it was in the reverse, meaning like, yes, today. So maybe, current energy is that now that he's accomplished this and, has maybe more of a set focus on what he's doing next with respect to business and things like that, what maybe even his family needs are, And by family, I mean the people around him are going to need someone that is equally, as good for them. He's made a lot of communication about, how he feels about his mom. And that's why I bring up the statement that came up in my other page reading, which is Fancy Granola Goddess, that, choosing the right kind of woman is imperative, especially if you're a hard worker and, you may be away. Passion's not the only thing that you require, right? You want it all, pretty much. You want it all. And I can't blame anyone for wanting it all. We all should want it all, right? Okay, so he's in a phase of ascending, learning and expanding, maybe transcending, previous thoughts and things like that, and preparing for union, a new phase, I guess. What I understand about these dynamics of divine connections is that even in the midst of heartbreak, like if when he and his ex, Harvey's daughter, when they split up, even in the midst of heartbreak, he had a passion, a chemistry, an equal interest, a burning desire. But what I'm understanding is that burning desire could have been different things at different time. A burning desire to be free, a burning desire to heal, a burning desire to have intimacy versus intercourse, just different things, sparks, having fun. And there's this saying that it's like, well, if you find yourself in love with two people, right, choose the person that you fell in love with second. Because if you really truly love that first person, you wouldn't have been able to fall in love with the second person. And there's something about this energy here where it feels as though no matter whom he meets, he's still, it's not even a comparison thing. It's just the level of elation. And I'm calling that for a specific reason. That's what the guide said. The level of elation, the level of spiritual well-being, the level of spiritual purity, the level of innocence, the level of, past life recognition, which creates a different type of devotion, And when you can tap into that and know that the person that you've met is actually, your divine partner, that's what's incredible. So that may be why he's working through that as, part and process of ascending now, maybe putting more focus towards that. So that he can recognize, you have to trust yourself to make the right decision in love. And I think that's what he's attempting to do. He is, seems as though he's dating or looking at or, been seen with whatever, safe options. But there's something about his heart and this spiritual connection to this woman. There's something about that. Okay. It's like even if he met, no matter who he seems to meet, it feels like there's almost like a deficit, a deficit that puts him back into the similar energy that he was with Harvey's daughter, where he's uncertain about their true connection. Whereas it's with this energy here, it's insane chemistry. They're always having fun. He finds himself able to be himself, not just finding that he has things in common. See, that's one thing. It's one thing to find that you have things in common with other people. It's another to be able to be yourself, right? There's a difference there with the people that he's meeting. So that's who he's really meant to be with. Sorry to drag it out so long. Okay, this person talks about, yeah, whomever this woman is not interested in the limelight, but is mentally and spiritually strong. And no one can really control her presence. Likely because if they've had previous lives, he's had to climb his way up in the industry. And this person has likely had to climb their way up in the world, like just in general in the world. So they have a similar, like, started from the bottom, now we're here. It's that same, this may have been an energy that, got it out the mud, because what I understand spiritually is when one person isn't awakened, the other person takes on more attacks. They get attacked in a different way because the other person is aloof to the connection and doesn't see necessarily how the people that they connect with, maybe doing spiritual things behind their back. He may have an ex somewhere that's, still pining over him. He may, encounter women and go out on dates with them and stuff like that, or women that are just generally interested in him that will attack his divine feminine, or try to mimic or imitate the divine feminine, because he's not completely aware, or maybe not completely ready. Okay, interesting. Yeah, this Cupid arrow. He does have a lot of faith that love is coming in. He does feel as though he's been struck by love. So maybe he is aware of this woman, but just hasn't, set his course in her direction, I guess. I don't know. And how does his choice of partnership, the woman beside him, multiply or accelerate his destiny? Okay, I'll pull a few more from this just to see what's the connection through this ascending section of it. Whoa. Okay. So what I'm seeing here is the reason that he didn't connect with this feminine energy yet, and has kind of been out, dating, getting back out there, meeting new people, etc., is because, he had to grow and transform, and maybe even that ascending phase is like really be strong-willed with putting an end to past relationships where he was maybe even made to feel like he wasn't enough. Because when you endure something in one relationship, it can break your confidence to the point to where you end up in exactly the same type of relationship. So he may be, lacking some self-confidence, maybe self-sabotaging, maybe his ego gets in the way, or fear, frustrations. That seems to be the reason why he declined his soul, his divine partner, his divine connection. He may have to learn about, the energies around him that weren't on board with, him really pursuing a soul connection, a partnership. He does have a soul contract with this person. So I don't get the energy that this person is like holding him to it. It's just, God holds this person to it. God holds this person, this feminine energy, to the connection with him. And I don't think he is aware of that. Maybe he is. Maybe that's why he feels like he can do anything, right? We've seen that happen in soul connections before. But what continues to happen, why he's in this ascending mode right now, is because there is still insane chemistry. Sparks really fly when he's having fun, connecting with her energy. They have equal interests, and they both have a very strong burning desire for each other. So it may seem as though on both ends of it, if this feminine energy tries to, not focus and not be connected in this partnership, that she's reminded of him, not that he's not everywhere. all over the screen. But even if she like just turned off all her devices, she would probably be met with people with his name everywhere. It'd be like the person, the hostess name is Michael, and then the server's name is Jordan. It would. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be laughing, but that's what I'm getting from this. It's like, it doesn't matter. Oh, goodness, this is funny. Okay, so what is the next question? How does his choice of partnership, the woman beside him, multiply or accelerate his destiny? All right, let's look. Cool. Maybe it gets him into this phase of like opening up in a way that he hasn't before, you know? I'm thinking not only with her, but with his fans, because again, there's a level of understanding ascension and spiritual healing and spiritual evolvement and self-awareness and, you know, all of that the world really needs from him going into hermit mode. And also it clears his energy. Oh, wow. Okay. So this, again, like I said, this feminine energy carries the brunt of the spiritual cleansing. Yeah. As the soulmate, that's a part of her responsibility, is to keep his energy refueled and help him to recontinue. Whew. Okay, so maybe there's a point, like I said at the previous reading, there's a point where she'd been supporting and just battling the spiritual warfare. So there's something to understand about the level of the vibration that she helps him to maintain, or would, because I don't feel like the two are completely connected. And then it would enable him to kind of be free to not care or be concerned. I don't know if he is even about, oh, okay, it's a protection. There is a protection level that comes with that person that helps him to develop a healthy inner world, right? Because there's been some communication or some things coming up about how, you know, someone said that they feel like he and Tiana Taylor are going to be the ones that the industry tries to, you know, snatch up, so to speak. So it will enable him to really be covered in such a way that those things become a false reality for those type of Hierophant groups. He will no longer be completely focused on a materialistic realm. Remember, I said from the beginning, he comes in as a King of Pentacles. That's the energy that I get for him. But that's because he's still, you know, he's born to stand out, right? But it's a healthy inner world that he's, and again, I'm not saying that this man is not, you know, done his soul searching. It just is going to enable him to speak up. Again, this is what the world needs. The world needs for men in divine partnerships that have the focus and the attention on them to actually explain how they got there, what's the value of it, what it looks like, what it feels like. But before all of that, they have to be able to completely convey what it takes, what it looks like to heal. And that's not easily put into words. So, yeah. And I think that's what he wants. He wants to, you know, I don't think he's looking to be, you know, everybody's, you know, mentor and things like that. But he does want to be able to leave a positive impact on the world, right? And he's been doing that through his financial goals. But again, there's something more to the wholeness that he would obtain with the right person that would convey outwardly to all of these lost generations and people. Yeah, he may possibly, I don't know if this is something that he would be helping others to see, to understand how to use divination, to understand their own path, which seems like is what I said over here. But yeah, outside of their financial goals, What else could he obtain in this connection? I'm going to do some tarot on that too. Ooh, that one came out pretty quick. Wow. Wow. He would be able to help other individuals figure out ways to form new habits, to ascend. There's a huge spiritual enlightenment that is a part of Michael's life purpose. And it comes along with like this fresh start. Who doesn't want a fresh start? After this, after that, after this, after that. And he's shown how to do that with respect to the financial aspect of life. This part can more often be the most difficult part. That's at least what I see in the world right now. Okay, I said I was going to do some tarot. Yeah, it's that developing a healthy inner world, escaping the materialism of it. He's shown the example of how to, keep focused on your goals and, empower yourself and empower others, in the financial aspects of it. But this healthy inner world, that's not what people see. Yeah, that's not what people see necessarily. It's another tarot deck. Okay, what's this person's next question? So that's how his choice, depending, he will receive justice by getting someone who sits in a Queen of Cups energy, who's compassionate, who's comfortable in their own skin, who's very calm, who's very nurturing, who's very healing, emotionally stable, intuitive, and caring. And see, that healing part is what I mean by the protection in the spiritual realm. Emotionally stable, emotionally stable also in that aspect that I was saying, like, being there for his family members, in a way that, she has a backbone where she's like, well, wait a minute, what are you doing over there, nurse? You know what I mean? When the time comes for those things, so that he could rest easy when he's away. Okay. What protection surrounds him that the public can't easily see? I'm getting that this divine feminine sees him in his emperor energy. This divine feminine sees, flaws in him, though she may, no flaws in him. Yeah. She's a very gentle person, holding him harmless. Yeah. Someone that's always, speaking life into him. Okay. So through their connection, even though he's not chosen her or has declined the spiritual connection, she still stands for him to have, justice in whatever else it is that he's pursuing. Yeah, she's very nurturing, practical, a working parent, like you said in your comment there. A small honest proof. So that's the protection, because parental protection can only go so far. Yeah. Again, this is giving that heavy energy that, like, she foresees some things. As an intuitive, she foresees some things, like different opportunities that may be an illusion. And I'm hearing because of the divine connection, it may keep her up at night while he rests easy, or vice versa. There's something about the, a hope and desire for this cycle to be complete, where he's ascended and can fully accept his divine connection. Wow. Yeah. There's no, there's a support level. I don't know what Michael is using right now to further evolve or enhance his protection. I would hope that despite the connection between he and this feminine energy being broken or pushed off or put to the side or whatever, that he's still able to create in that way, because there's something to be said about how, when you honor the healing your generational curses and, honoring your divine connections and pushing through whatever current life or past life karma or lessons or healing, that you need to, that you at some point obtain the capability to know what to do to keep yourself protected. I don't know that he knows that. I feel like that's maybe why we saw some things kind of get a little like, off before the Oscars took place, that, outburst, which was, considered, in my personal opinion, public humiliation, prior to him connecting with this feminine energy, was the car accident, right? And I don't know if these are humiliation rituals that he's agreeing to be a part of because he needs to progress, or if these are just weird things that are just happening in life. People go through a car accident. People, get people saying things about them, Tourette's. But I guess the concern here is that it might be more instances, more heavy, because it seems like there was quite some period while he was working on these things that he was connected, with this feminine energy that kept him, able to progress, because she protects him in the spiritual realm. There is, certainty that that's what happens, but the public can't see that. But if you knew about the timeline between when he decided to disconnect and when he, maybe even gave the cold shoulder to this feminine energy, his divine partner, that's when the shift happened, and it was like, what is this weirdness going on? Prior to then, it was just like smooth sailing. So, yeah. Okay. Anything else to answer that? Protection. Wow. Yeah. It's the hope and the calm and the faith and the purpose that, spiritually, spiritual aspect of fortune, a good omen, rejuvenation, renewal. One is that he does have the power of his fans too, but that can only go so far. I might even go far off to say that the feminine energy maybe even made an effort, to bring good ideas to, his fan club, to support him before his movie came out, that were, dismissed. Interesting. Yeah. Because she respects his leadership, she wouldn't want to interject herself, so to speak. She would want to be a quiet, somebody that goes around the person to bring positive ideas, that will enhance things. This is, for certain movies, there are certain fan groups and clubs that will go and then will dress up according to what the movie, that may be something that this person suggested to his fan club, and they, it was a wash, basically. They didn't have the same level of support. Like, she's ground level support. Other people are like, oh, we'll go see the movie, but she's like, everybody should have dressed up to go see the movie, not just for Halloween, months and months after, because the movie came out in March. Everybody's dressing up in October. That's great, but what if we would have brought that kind of fanfare to the film prior to? But yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's a heavy level of protection that, exudes there, but Michael has to work with his own guides, is what I'm saying. I don't know why I'm getting an energy that he's stressed, but anyway. What small, honest proof would show the world his integrity right now? What small, honest proof? Okay. Ooh. Okay. Maybe communicating. There's some type of desire that the outward world would like proof, maybe even to from him, that he's not, overwhelmed by negative thoughts or restrictions or imprisoned or feeling, entrapped or in any type of victim mentality because of past failed relationships. I feel like that may be a stigma that he sits under, that people continue to look and peer at, compete. Everybody's always questioning, why isn't he with someone? Why isn't he with someone? And I know that recently, that's going to call, he would have to, okay. We're going to leave that alone for a minute. Just go back to what I was saying. I know recently that his mom said that the reason why, in some interview or something like that, I saw a snippet where Mama Donna said something along the lines of, everybody's curious about why my son isn't married yet. There's all this speculation. He's still not over Steve Harvey's daughter. He wants to be with his ex, or he's a player, or this or that. But her statement was that he's been committed to kind of being there for his mom. And she was saying that she's going to take a step back or something like that. And then the next thing you know, he's out on the date with the girl from Bridgerton. So, perhaps that's, a movement in that direction. I don't know. So there's something to do there with that. For him to make a sudden change and kind of, remove all, like put an ending to the conversations about it. But I don't suggest anybody jump into a connection or a relationship unless they truthfully know that it's their divine connection. And at this point, it doesn't seem to me like Michael may be as self-assured about this person as he is about himself and his career. But that's the honest proof that would show the world, like, because people are making all these different things up for him and he doesn't really say much. Ooh. Yeah. There's something about this high priestess energy. Yeah. There's a level of intuition, sacred knowledge. Again, that's a part of his life purpose, though. So he has to get there, right? What is the deepest fear about optics that's asking to be released? Like I mentioned earlier, that it's all about the financial aspect, escaping this materialism. He showed a brief part of it when he showed, himself meditating and things like that. So he bridged, that type of energy, but I don't know if he felt like it was well received or whatever. But, again, with the support of the right person, he has that capability to not be concerned because there's a life purpose in it. He doesn't need to be nice. There's something about that. I don't feel like he's, someone that's like, better be careful with my words. He has, though, been structured in such a way that he doesn't want to ruffle any feathers, He doesn't, he's grown into that type of individual where it's like, stay out of trouble, keep your nose clean, that kind of thing. And he's trying to maintain that. So, the deepest fear about optics that needs to be released is that it's all about, that it's all about this chase for money, and, that it's all about this. That's the fear. Yeah. But there's something about like this competition that exists, that he needs to put under judgment. Maybe even it's with respect to the connection, the competition for his heart, you know. Whereas I feel like the other women around him that he's connected with now feel like they're all in competition with each other or with the divine feminine energy. Whether they place that on her spiritually, oh yeah, they do. Um, but she feels like she's in competition with his work. She doesn't want to be in competition with anything, though. That's what I heard. She just wants it to be like a rebirth, a moment for, him to follow his inner calling, and have a new phase of absolution, reckoning, awakening, redemption, forgiveness, and mercy. And knowing that that's the heart that she has. Okay. So that's the deepest fear that's needing to be released. If he chooses presence and covenant over performance, what opens next for his career and mission? Ooh. Wow. Oh, wow. I told you guys. If he chooses the path of presence and covenant over performance, what opens next for his career mission? If he chooses presence and covenant, just got me biting my nails, y'all. That's not even me. It's his life purpose. That's what would come next. If he chooses presence and covenant over performance, what opens next for his career mission? There's something about like the illusion or mystery with respect to, I'm getting like he creates a new spiritual institution. He creates a new spiritual hierarchy. He becomes more powerful than the powers that be, which is likely why it's been so difficult for him to obtain. Listen, I cannot make it up. Why it's been so difficult for him to connect with his person. There are spiritual, battles going on. Wow. If he chooses presence and covenant over performance, his purpose matches up. His purpose, his power, and performance actually all get together on the same line. He becomes that power. He becomes the representation for that. He has enough. Wow. He has enough strength and compassion to complete that and then be able to show others how to do it. Says the number 18, which is the moon card, reduces to 9. It is about completion and selflessness. Wow. Yeah, he moves on from, that burdensome space of either everybody, vying to find out who he's dating or spreading the rumors, or like he can live in complete and total peace and power. Wow. Yeah, and that happens pretty fast once he's able to transition and leave behind the performance aspect of it. I'm not even going to get into that. Yeah. It kind of puts people in their place, is what I just saw here in the cards. People have been fighting for a long time in the industry that he's in to be able to change the whole entire industry. Living in his purpose, because that's something other people haven't had the opportunity to do. Living in his purpose in this way, or maybe it was just divine timing, or he was the chosen one for this. Like it very could be that he is a chosen part of the, what do they call 144,000 that's meant to change the world and rule it. I mean, I'm just going to be honest here. That's what I see. He becomes the rule of the world. He becomes a part of that. he has so much influence in so many different places that if he chooses presence and covenant over performance, he becomes the powers that be. He has the capability to have that influence. That's why they will do everything and put everything they could possibly try in front of that man. Oh, he likes Capricorns, let's bring him another Capricorn. Those ones get his gears going, let's do that. They're sneaky, they're manipulative. And if they know at all about his life purpose, which they probably do, and the life purpose of his divine partner, they are going to, continue to try to manipulate as much as they possibly can so that they can remain in power. But it sits them all down. I literally saw the Five of Pentacles. And what was the other card I just saw? The Five of Pentacles. And it was something else that did. Oh, the Ten of Swords. Yeah, it becomes a painful ending for the powers that be. That's why they're all working so hard right now. Yeah, because they're all at a stalemate is what I'm seeing here in the card. Those powers that be are all in a stalemate because, but they know they gave into that stalemate. But anyway, we're not going to get on the industry, but that's that's what this man's purpose is. And that's what happens when he chooses it versus, like you said. One man with all that power. That's what they look at. They see. They side-eye it. Because other people always wanted to be him. Not necessarily saying that XYZ person wants to be Michael B. Jordan. But in reality, XYZ person was attempting to destiny swap, keep him feeling or in connections that kept him away from his divine partner and vice versa. But look, that would all be put to an end. Could you imagine those structures collapsing? That is literally what they're afraid of, because there's so many people that have awakened already to spirituality and ancestors and this and that and the other, understanding the connection between all the religions and spirituality as it stands. There's something in there. But anyway, so that's what happened. And what single step can he take in the next few days to show truth without spectacle? That's a good question. To trust. What can he do in the next few days to show truth without spectacle? Well, remain energetically balanced. Find the meaning and purpose. It's literally on the card, purpose. Be in harmony with his purpose is what I see. Like harmony, moderation, patience, being sensible. Maybe he likes a certain look. That's come up in other readings for him. Being sensible about is one person going to be this over here when you really need them to be this when it comes down to your, this is the life outside, to the outward world. And this is the life that you really desire to have at home. Are you going to want someone that's focused on the glitz and the glam? And that's the sole reason they're there versus, but what single step can he take in the next few days to show truth without spectacle? Yeah, being balanced and in harmony, with his purpose and finding that meaning, finding things that inspire him. And filling himself and his mind with ideas of self-discovery, of his limitless potential, because he is a free spirit. He needs to further explore that aspect of it with excitement and understand that he not only becomes free, right? He not only becomes free, but he frees so many people that have been a part of this industry, that have been a part of the, shenanigans is just what I'm going to call it. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe even, wow. Yeah, this fell out. It says, he may find himself in an energy of resisting change. I often feel like if Michael does ever see my readings, he tends to go against it because he's a very headstrong person. So I wouldn't doubt it if he doesn't take the good advice. not to say that I'm the end all be all, but if he knows that previously he's made wrong choices, taking the advice of, your ego is telling you you want this model, but does the model actually become the good wife? Kind of thing. I don't know. But the love and the maybe he needs to communicate. Maybe he needs to start making moves in the direction. Maybe he needs to, you know, make some decisions about, expressing his love, um, based on his spiritual intuition. I don't know. Does he have a baby on the way? There's been rumors, right? He should be careful with that too. Oh yeah, he should be careful with that too, because there's some understanding that if he has a child with the wrong person, that it's a bad situation. Yeah. Now that person is going to make him out to be. Yeah. So truth without spectacle is to go in the way. See, so he needs to use his heart and his mind in this part. I'm hearing like choose differently, because if you keep choosing the same type of partner, people connected to the industry, people in the industry, people who, want to be associated with the industry, Instagram models, realtors that are looking just to sleep with somebody to get the listing, and, all these different things, He'll rest easier is what I'm hearing. He'll rest easier to have a new beginning with someone that's, in a sense, innocent yet spontaneous, that's optimistic and trust in life, in this blind faith, someone who's adventurous and, makes the most of every opportunity, but finds pleasure daily. That's interesting. Finds pleasure daily. Okay. So that was what small, honest proof would show the world his integrity. Yeah, that he move in that way. Oh, okay. What is the deepest fear about optics? Or was that what I was asking? I don't even remember now. Deepest fear about optics? I think it came out together. So this is the King of Swords. He wants to be seen as someone who uses their head over their heart, who's disciplined, truthful, honest, has mental clarity and authority. He feels like if he chooses with his heart, but that's probably the different move that he hasn't made before. He's always been in this head over heart, disciplined, truthful, honest. And I don't, again, like I said before this came out, he needs to use both. He needs to use his head and his heart. Do they both point in the same direction at any point in time? Because if so, that would be the honest, truthful, decision. That's what would put him into complete authority. There's something about that familiarity with the same type of people when he's in the King of Wands energy that leads him to, more conflict and disagreements, more, things being said in the media, yada, yada, yada. Okay, let me hurry up because this battery's gone. His favorite word is legacy. So what part of his legacy needs his courage to bring into the light now? I think it's that using the head and the heart together. I'm not gonna lie. Using that head and the heart, place where it feels like home. Yeah, he needs to manifest this. He needs to take action to create this. It's like he may even know exactly who this woman is, but has made no effort to go in her direction because of the optics of it. Because to everybody else it looks like this. Because to this person it looks like that. But they are not going to be the ones that are growing old with him. I mean, they will be if he doesn't choose right? Again, I should say. But having that willpower, that skill to, create, and provide clarity through his own self-confidence. Again, it is going to wield so much power when he is with the right person. It's not even funny. He has so much already. It says, I'm a movement by myself, but I'm a force when we're together. And again, it's not about the optics. It's the head and the heart working together. That's typically what helps people to manifest, is using their head and their heart at the same time, right? Anyway, so that's his deepest fear about the optics that needs to be released. His favorite words legacy. What part of his legacy needs his courage to bring into the light now? His manifestation, his ability to take action in the direction of what he's manifesting. That is not the same as what he's previously done. He's manifested an Oscar. Why can't he manifest a partner? I'm just putting that question out there. That's what I'm getting. It says, what blessing will ripple through his life and work when he stands with his true partner? And because he is a celebrity surrounded by wickedness, the truth about his faith, moral choices, and what the public most needs to see so far. What is the true nature of his spiritual path? I think we've covered all of that too. Does it serve and protect, or does it harm? It serves and protects. It protects him, and it serves others. It also serves him to live in his purpose, right? So, and do his choices, is he personally involved in anything that harms others, or do his choices align with his highest good? So, is he personally involved in anything that harms others? That's going to be a sticky one. Yes. It says manifestation, practicality. So it's that being in the King of Swords. He is an air sign, so I get it. But he needs to use both. Okay? So his manifestation, practicality. He needs to manifest a practical connection, right? Skill, absolute decisions, business, and the ego. Those are the things that stand in the way. The fact that he's always constantly moving in the direction of that, right? That is what is that's what holds him back. What is the true nature of his spiritual path? Does it serve and protect him, or is he personally involved in anything that harms others? So the answer was yes. What visible? What would align with his highest good? What decision would align with his highest? Wow. Healing that inner child. Making a creative or romantic, gesture. Being a Prince Charming. So healing his inner child. Doing what his inner child wants. His inner child was put into the industry by chance, and he did really well with it. There's some overly optimistic about things working out one way, but then he gets met with the same energies, and that breeds more negativity, gets him depressed and sad. And then he starts to feel like he was careless or arrogant with respect to what he knows or who he knows he should be manifesting. That's interesting. So I'm getting that it directly affects his counterpart. Ooh. It breaks. It puts that counterpart into suffering. Oh, wow. These did turn in the reverse, though. It's like if the person weren't so diligent and so spiritually tapped in, it would create a lot of disaster and cause that person to move on, or that's what it's about to do. This person is going to remove themselves from the connection. It's going to ask to be released from the spiritual connection because he's unable to proceed. He's very much in a Leonardo DiCaprio, always choosing the same sign and, same age and all the rest of that. Yeah. So that's a part of his legacy that won't, that he has to have the courage to bring into fruition. So that was the question, is he personally involved in anything that harms others, or do his choices align with the highest good? And again, there's also the people that need his help. when he steps into his purpose, when he chooses the right partner, how he can enable and teach others to make the same decisions, because he becomes in such high control of this industry. I'm just telling you, what visible small sign would reassure people about his integrity and faith. Thank God this, whoever this spiritual being is that he's got a potential partnership, or had potential partnership with, is yeah, because it's even got the Capricorn, and it's in reverse though. That's what keeps him stuck. That's what keeps him stuck. But whomever this feminine energy is very balanced. Their heart doesn't get weighed down with his rejection. That also means this person wouldn't take it personal, certain things that he may do that other people feel some type of way about. Okay. But it's because of, maybe she has Aries in her chart too. Oof. Yep, look. It says, what visible proof, small and honest sign, would reassure people about his integrity and faith? He's got to get out of this. King of Cups in reverse. He's taking bad advice. He's emotionally manipulating the situation. He's very moody. He has a lot of compassion for himself, but maybe not even acknowledging the conflict that he breeds when he stays in this kind of energy. All right, last card for to flank that other side of the King of Cups, please. Yeah. If he gets out of that, he really does learn how to relax a bit more, have that complete solitude, and he steps into this natural leader energy where he is the visionary of this. Everybody wants the industry to change, especially those who are in the industry. But I don't know that he actually even acknowledges or sees the big picture about how much of a leader he's been called. Is it a part of his purpose? He has to overcome those challenges and be mature about, hey, if I'm looking to influence the world through my, what is it called? Through my celebrity, wouldn't this be the way that the higher powers would see that being, viable? Wouldn't this be the way? Because they already see him as career focused, It's just those challenges to be mature and see the big picture when it comes to love. Yeah. There's something to do with his inner child. Because it says familiarity, happy memories, reminiscing, childhood memories, innocence, joy, nostalgia. When he connects with this partner, that is what he feels. He needs to accept that, though. He just throws his head right back into work. And then he's met with all of these. Just like I said, she may go somewhere and totally cut off from social media, and then the host is named Michael, and then the server's name is Jordan. The same thing happens to him every time he's met with that. Yeah. And then he gets back. He keeps going, and maybe he keeps himself in these toxic cycles, which brings more conflict and disagreements than he would necessarily like, and he just throws himself into his work. Maybe he doesn't see how he protects his counterpart too. It's something that I'm seeing there. Maybe he doesn't. Yeah. He's only seeing the long-term view and focus of his hard work, perseverance, diligence, sustainable results, and investment. Look at his counterpart. And she doesn't judge him for that. She lets him be independent. She sets clear boundaries for herself. Yeah, she's a very direct communicator and clear-minded and perceptive. She understands, She understands that, the spiritual battle is strong. Oh, look at that. All right, I'm going to end it there because clearly that's who this person is. He would be connecting with a high priestess, which would make him a hierophant or a high priest himself. That's how he comes into rule. Yep, by loving a high priestess. It brings good things to life. Look, there he is. I told you guys he sits in this King of Pentacles energy. He's more so focused on the... Yeah, that's what puts him at the stalemate. All right, I'm going to leave it alone. I hope that answered all of your questions. Yeah, I hope that answers all your questions. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks. Later.